But first now, let's bring in tonight's panel, Sky News contributor Jo Hildebrand and host Liz Storer. Great to see
Sharri,
you.
how are you?
Hello. Now, I just want to add to this a couple of extra points that I've learned tonight during my many phone calls on this matter. Firstly, it looks like the Liberal Party is not going to expel Matt Kean. The Liberal Party needs his support, or they think they need his support for the upcoming by-election in his own seat. Meanwhile, Peter Dutton's office doesn't think this is such a terrible move to have Matt Kean in this role. They say that that the people who know him dislike him, that he's unpopular, and that having him on the side of Albo won't help their case pretty much in the same way that having Chris Bowen as Energy Minister also diminishes their case because he is so strongly disliked. Liz, what do you think about this? I mean, Australians haven't warmed to Matt Kean. There were multiple policy failures in New South Wales. Chris Minns has had to reverse the closure or delay the closure of Eraring. So it is a curious decision, and it looks like Labor thought it was just being too smart to make this move.
Too smart by half. They're like, look, we've got a Lib on side. He's going to be heading it up now. Look at this independent body. Look, perhaps it was a bit of stroke of genius on their part, because that does now look quite bipartisan. But Matt Kean has been the left of the party for a very long time. I know you said he, used to head up the moderates. I think there are a lot of moderates who would disagree with that, even if that was his official position. I think that this is a perfect appointment for Labor. This is where Kean has always belonged, heading up the Climate Communism Authority. It's a hand-in-glove appointment. But what I can't get over is how quickly he's just switched from being re-elected, doing his thing, to just stepping out the door for a by-election because he got a better offer, basically.
Well,
so
it depends
people have
on the
elected
timing.
you.
It depends on the timing, and there's a lot of thought that this was a very last-minute appointment, that he announced his resignation to join the private sector. And by the way, on Tuesday, I think, and by the way, there's a lot of inside speculation that Matt Kean might go work with Malcolm Turnbull. He's got a renewable energy company. Malcolm Turnbull and Lucy Turnbull were at Matt Kean's valedictory speech. So there's a lot of speculation he might go join the Turnbulls. But Jo,
I do find that hard to believe, though, don't you? That he resigns like less than a week ago and says, it's to join the private sector. And within a week, he's just got this amazing opportunity and he's off to work for...
It's perfectly possible. It's
not saying it's impossible, but it's a bit hard to swallow, I think. And what to say of the fact that, now we've got to fork out for a by-election. This is a guy who ran. Obviously, when you run, you're promising your electorate, I'm going to stick around.
That sort of stuff happens all the time.
But he leaves for a better role.
I think the problem is, firstly, Matt Kean announced his resignation from the Parliament on the day of the New South Wales state budget that was handed down by Daniel Mooking, a magnificent human being, one of the holy trinity of Chris Minns, Daniel and Prue Carr. And that was seen very much among the New South Wales right of the Labor Party as a real sort of dog act, a sort of, look at me, trying to divert all the attention to him as Matt Kean is wont to do at a time when the New South Wales government has delivered $5 billion in social housing, something no one can actually remember doing. Probably the best state budget I've ever seen. Anyway, point being, I talked to a lot of people in the Labor Party that night, and the idea that if that had been known, that Matt Kean was about to take up a cushy Labor job federally on the day he was doing that, these guys are very, very sensible, practical, calm and common sense people, but there would have been a riot. People would have been limb from limb.
Which is why they just didn't reveal it till now.
And that tells you how...
The sense I've got, but, haven't confirmed it yet, but the sense I've got is that this is a last-minute thought bubble. A captain's pick from Albanese was taken to Cabinet at the last minute. And Chris Bowen was asked about this today, whether it was a captain's pick, and he just said, it went through the usual processes, which meant presumably that it was taken to Cabinet.
But then also that is to assume that Kean just left for no particular job.
Maybe it's changing. I thought I
without knowing this was coming up.
But it didn't go through the usual process of applying for it. It was a captain's pick in the sense that Chris Bowen said, I want Matt Kean. Cabinet went, all right, there you go, you can have him. Okay, what single vote does this shift? Like, how does this shift the debate on climate? Is anyone going to say, oh, I was a climate skeptic, but now Matt Kean's on board, suddenly I believe? Of course not. Do people who already believe in climate change and want strong action on it are not the government's problem. So they're just preaching to the choir with Matt Kean without bringing anyone.
This is a question of believing in climate change. I mean,
no, but believing in the extent of the action that is needed.
It's about how you manage
That's
the
right.
transition.
But the point being, instead of having someone who is extremely and openly non-partisan, someone who is perhaps a bit of a surprise, someone who would have thought, I wouldn't have thought they were all in on it, like a leading business figure or someone like that could say, right, I'm just going to run the ruler over the economics of this action and tell you why A, nuclear doesn't stack up, or B, renewables do, whatever.
Let's have a look at this amazing story. Labor proposing a whopping $214,000 pay rise for the new Governor-General, Sam Mostyn, who is a mate of Albanese's. So this would take her salary from $495,000, already huge, to $709,000. No reason has been given for why Sam Mostyn would need a pay rise like this to do the Governor-General's job. Doesn't seem like an arduous job. You wear nice clothes and go to opening ceremonies. And you could say, well, is there gender parity here? She's been given a 200 grand increase for the same job that a bloke was doing. Interesting point, Liz. But ultimately, Australians will hate this during a cost of living crisis.
100%. And as you've already said, this is a figurehead more than anything else. The Governor-General doesn't exactly do all that really important pressing matters. They show up to things, they cut ribbons, they press the flesh. That's pretty much the job in a nutshell. I understand that they're saying this rise has something to do with the fact that she won't be eligible for a pension, which the role used to be, etc. So they're now trying to compensate for that. But when you know that it's a rather short term anyway, you don't get to become GG forever. There literally is no proper, I don't think there is a reason that they could give that the Australian public would be happy.
Well, it would have been 5 years on almost $500,000, so she would have pocketed 2.5 mil by the end of her term. So I reckon she could probably get by on that. I mean, again, this is just another terrible look. You can't defend it. Again, the New South Wales Labor government, the New South Wales Labor government, again, just to bring it back to what the sensible right does in the party, have all given all MPs, all ministers, wage freezes. They're not getting any wage rise at all. That's another thing that was in this budget that Matt Kean tried to distract from. Meanwhile, you've got federal politicians still trousering pay rises, and then you've got this. Like, how do you defend that? It's like it's like the screamer pillar in The Simpsons. It's like a creature that wants to die. I don't know why.
She should turn it
I
down.
do not know why Labor keeps making these kind of decisions.
Not that she should turn it down. She probably demanded it. When they offered her the job, she probably said, I'll only do it for 700 grand. I mean, you don't just voluntarily increase someone's salary by 200
I cannot
grand.
imagine, and I cannot imagine why you wouldn't say absolutely not. That is demeaning to this role if you were even asking for that. It's
why would you want to be the GG that all Australians hate as well? You'd just be like, that's fetching more than the Prime Minister himself. You can't tell me that the role of GG is more stressful or more onerous than that of the Prime Minister.
She's got a bigger house in Canberra. She's got a bigger house in Sydney. She's got $2.5 million. You're asking for more. I mean, how do you go to sleep at night thinking this is an okay thing to do?
Very quickly, let's get to this next story. A damning report today reveals that Victoria is taking in, according to the report, too many immigrants. This is noting the huge costs of trying to keep up with infrastructure, roads, public transport, schools and hospitals. Could see the Victorian government face yet another financial disaster. Already debt levels are extraordinary. But Liz, the Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neil has repeatedly said that she was going to scale back on migration, but it just hasn't happened.
No, it's been 8 months since Labor promised it and we haven't seen anything of the sort. So I'm glad someone's sounding the bell in Victoria, but the truth is the same is to go for every single, certainly eastern state, unless you're sending these newcomers somewhere rural where we've got, I don't know, jobs that they can fill that need doing. But we already know even that isn't happening. We are allowing these masses of people in. There seems to be no comprehensive system by which we go, these are the skills we need, these are the skills you've got, and we're sending you to where
That is
those
the entire
jobs
migration
are.
system.
It's not happening, Joe. It is not.
There's been a catch up. There's been a catch up after we let literally 0 people in during the COVID years, and now there was a big spike to sort of play catch up with that, and that was the 500,000 that got everyone scared.
Housing crisis.
And now it's coming. And now it's coming down to 250,000. So it is coming down, but it comes down year by year. It's not that someone just comes out and says right, and that's it. Someone just does a little, draws up a little red rope at the airport and says, sorry, no more people coming in.
It's been 10,000 a week, Joe.
Yes, I know.
That was in the press just
I know
last
what 500,000 divided by 50 years.
It's not coming down.
No, but
it's coming down in future years. That's exactly what I'm saying. You don't
The
just say,
problem is now.
Labor never took to the election
We've got a shortage of house
Labor
builders.
never took to the election a big migration policy. This wasn't disclosed to Australians, and the pace of construction hasn't kept up with it, and that's ultimately the issue.
We've got a shortage of construction workers.
But for every person you bring here, you've got to give them a house, and we already know we talked about this the other week, Joe. On the list of skills, they've left out important skills that are needed in order to build said houses.
Presumably because they think, well, we don't actually have a shortage in these particular fields, but in things like plumbers, electricians, other fields that you need to build houses, we don't have enough to keep up with demand. And again, I say it till it blew in the face, the reason why developers stopped building houses is because they thought there's no more migrants coming, so there's not going to be a demand. So this is not a black and white issue. You ask anybody who knows.
That's certainly not that black and white.
There's a housing crisis even without the migration.
Indeed.
So that's not why construction was stopped. But we are out of time.
I promise you.
Joe Hildebrand, Liz Storer, thank you both very much.